Back when the Lakers acquired Anthony Davis, they invested a lot into him, and he delivered an NBA championship, right? Him and LeBron James were able to win the bubble championship, and Anthony Davis has been the sort of key cog for the Lakers ever since. Problem is health and just lack of consistency has been a big question with Anthony Davis. And this year, he's been in the lab, he's been working back on his shot, been trying to get his body right, and hopefully he can kind of get back to that MVP level player. I mean, we have seen Anthony Davis just completely dominate and look like the best player on the court night in and night out, playing at an MVP level, maybe top 3, top 5 all time. And then the next game, he'll be like, pedestrian. He'll give you like 12 points, like 7 rebounds, and you're just like, what is going on? Anthony Davis is the key to the Lakers no matter what happens. Whether the Lakers end up with Westbrook or they end up with Kyrie Irving, whoever the end result of the team that we have currently for the Lakers, Anthony Davis being dominant, playing at an MVP level is what it's going to take for the Lakers to be competitive and potentially win a championship. Now, whether you think the Lakers are a championship contender currently, personally, I don't really think they are, but a Anthony Davis that's playing at an MVP level, you got LeBron James, assuming he can continue to display the level that he played, you can't rule those two guys out. I mean, they're at worst case an extremely tough team to beat. And that's all you can really ask for, right? Is to have your team out there. Anthony Davis is going to be the key in that department. Now, could Anthony Davis potentially be traded? It's something that has been thrown out on several occasions. LeBron, he opted in to the contract extension. He got 2 years, $97 million over those 2 years, but the final year is a player option. So they have LeBron James for at least 2 more seasons, and then whatever happens with the third season, we will see. He could opt in and run it back. I think that'll depend on the Lakers roster and where they are at currently. And then Anthony Davis, his contract runs till then too. So basically you could lose both of these guys in the same offseason potentially. And that's one of the things was if LeBron doesn't commit and LeBron ends up leaving, do you trade Anthony Davis? Do you trade Anthony Davis ahead of time? Because the Lakers, they're not trading Anthony Davis as long as LeBron James is on that roster, and LeBron is locked in for at least 2 more seasons. So Anthony Davis is going to be on that team for at least 2 more seasons, unless LeBron goes in and says, hey, I need you to trade Davis and go get me some stars. But there was a report per The Heavy that has kind of made its ways around about a potential trade for Anthony Davis. Now, an NBA exec or two threw out this potential of like, hey, why don't you make a trade for 2 players that could essentially go home and go to the teams that they ultimately want to go to, and it's a win-win for everybody. And that trade would be Zach Lavine going to the Lakers. There was a lot of talks in free agency that the Lakers might try to work out a way via sign and trade to acquire Zach Lavine, that they really wanted Zach Lavine. And Zach Lavine ultimately decided to sign a long-term contract with the Bulls. But with that, there's always the question of like, do you get your max money now and then request a trade later? That is something that many players seem to be buying into, right? There's a lot of talks with guys like Bradley Beal. He opted into that long-term contract. Does he write it out and then in January say, hey, I want to be traded, and they end up trading him? Same thing with Lavine. Any Zach Lavine trade isn't going to be able to happen until January, but maybe come January, especially if the Bulls are underperforming or not playing to the level that they had hoped and that things aren't looking too great, does Zach Lavine say, hey, I want you to trade me, I want out? It's something that could be a possibility. And now you got a KD situation all over again, but this time for the Bulls. Do the Bulls play hardball? Do they give in to the request? How does that work out? And Zach Lavine has expressed he would love to play for the Lakers before. He said it in the past, and it's a place that he has been connected to on several occasions. So does he say, hey, I want you to trade me to the Lakers? And then the Lakers work out a way to acquire a Lavine. Now, obviously, the Lakers want to get Kyrie Irving. If they land Kyrie, then very likely that's probably what ends up happening. And they, don't even look at Zach Lavine because you got Kyrie, LeBron, and Anthony Davis. That team's good enough to be a legit contender. But if Zach Lavine wants to be a Laker and you don't have Kyrie, do you work it out? Do you stick out with Anthony Davis? What ultimately ends up happening? Now, obviously, again, Zach Lavine would go to the Lakers, and then being a Laker, you would have LeBron and Lavine for the foreseeable future. Of course, the execs that threw out this idea, or at least one of the two that threw out the idea, said if LeBron decides to leave. Now, LeBron has opted in. LeBron can't even be traded. Not saying that the Lakers would ever trade LeBron, but for whatever reason, if there was a reason that the Lakers wanted to trade LeBron or that LeBron wanted to be traded, he can't this year at least because he won't be eligible for a trade until mid to late February. I think it's like February 19th or 17th, something along those lines. And the trade deadline is supposed to be like February 9th. But you could trade Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis isn't being reliable or he's being inconsistent and it looks like, things aren't going very well, do the Lakers maybe explore a Zach Lavine for Anthony Davis trade? Now, the trade request or trade proposal was them basically straight up. I don't think that happens unless Anthony Davis is injured again and then it's something like that. Anthony Davis is a far better player than Zach Lavine as a whole. And he's a lot rarer of a player than a guy like Zach Lavine. So any trade for Anthony Davis, they're going to get Zach Lavine and then some. But it was they just put it as it'd be an easy swap, Lavine for Anthony Davis. That's not going to happen. The Lakers aren't going to trade Anthony Davis unless it comes to the point where Anthony Davis says, I need you to trade me and I need you to trade me to Chicago. Maybe if he forces the issue, something like that, maybe that happens. But I don't think Anthony Davis is going to do that. As long as he has LeBron James, the two of them want to see this through together. They're in this together for the long haul and at least for 2 more seasons. Now, does this trade get explored 2 seasons from now? Say at the end of not this season, but the following season, when Anthony Davis and LeBron James could potentially be going in the last year, do the Lakers go, hey, LeBron's probably going to leave, so maybe we trade Anthony Davis now, especially if they're not a contender, right? Let's say they are still a play-in team or they're a team that's a first or second round exit and they don't seem like a legit contender. Do you try to make moves to put yourself in a position for your future post LeBron and post Anthony Davis? Because if LeBron leaves and the Lakers aren't very good, does Anthony Davis stay? And your best option is to trade Anthony Davis because he's going to be your most valuable asset at that point. And if you could get a guy like Zach Lavine who wants to be there and kind of have that piece to build around, you'd also probably have a lot of cap space because Lakers have been really good about preserving their cap space. If you have LeBron and Anthony Davis off the books, you're just basically bringing in Zach Lavine and you have $100 million, maybe you could build a team around Zach Lavine that could be a potential contender. I mean, Zach Lavine is an incredible talent, but again, he's nowhere near Anthony Davis. So if Anthony Davis was to be traded to the Bulls, which would make sense for Davis, right? He is a player that is from Chicago, as expressed. He would love to play for Chicago at some point in his career. Whether he does or not, that's yet to be seen. But any trade, unless it's a desperation trade or Anthony Davis is you're going to trade me and you're only going to trade me to the Bulls, then you're getting a pretty good package back. So I would imagine it's going to be Zach Lavine, probably a couple other players, because I don't think this would even be a exploratory trade this season. So depending on what the Bulls roster looks like in, say, 2 seasons from now, it could be interesting. Do they want to move off of, a Kobe White or, what other kind of mid-tier guys or up-and-coming developed guys do they have in their system that, kind of is becoming a little standout that makes sense? Or is it just draft picks? I don't see a Anthony Davis-Lavine trade straight up. Again, unless it would be desperation. I don't see this trade happening regardless, but it is an interesting idea if worse came to worse, right? If Anthony Davis wants out of LA or it's just not working or whatever, if you could do worse than getting back a guy like Lavine plus pieces. And I think Chicago would do something like that because they'd want Anthony Davis. Health is going to be a big factor. If Anthony Davis still can't stay on the floor, then yeah, that loses a lot of value. But does Chicago take a chance on Anthony Davis? That's another big question. But I think the Lakers, if they had to, would trade Davis. If LeBron wasn't on the team, I wouldn't be shocked if they traded Davis this season. Just because they look at it as hey, we got a weird situation with Westbrook. We got a weird situation, with everything. If LeBron left this season or this following season, I wouldn't be shocked if they were looking for Davis trades. So will that happen 2 years from now? I think is an interesting factor. But Anthony Davis on the Chicago Bulls makes all the sense in the world. It's something I've even thrown out there personally months ago about Anthony Davis being traded to Chicago. Like, do you unload him and try to get back like Vucevic? Maybe you could get a DeMar DeRozan, something like that. And maybe you get those pieces and you kind of get the same production. I mean, but Anthony Davis, MVP level Anthony Davis is ridiculous. I mean, he's a monstrous type player. He's a rare player. He's one that's unlike any player in the league. It's just there's a lot of questions with health. But to be fair, when it comes to Anthony Davis and his health, he's played more games than like half the stars in this league. Like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Jamal Murray, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, all of these guys. Like, there's an entire list you can go look up of just players that have played less games over the last 3 seasons than Anthony Davis. So this whole narrative that Anthony Davis is injury prone is, you can make the same argument for half the guys in the league. But it just seems like it's impromptu times, right? It seems like it's the first round of the playoffs. You looks like you're going to beat the Suns, and you might be heading to another NBA Finals, and boom, Anthony Davis gets hurt. Like, yeah, those are the issues. Lakers, Anthony Davis comes back, looks really good. Looks like the Lakers are making a push to kind of make the playoffs, and then boom, Anthony Davis gets hurt. Whether those are out of his control or not, like last season, I don't think that those were injuries that he had any control. You can't control somebody flying 10 feet and rolling into your ankle. Like, that's out of your control if you're Anthony Davis or any player in general. So I think it's interesting. But at the end of the day, like a Zach Lavine, Anthony Davis type swap, I do think that there would be more pieces involved in this trade. But it could be something worth exploring 2 years from now. Because Lavine would still only be like 29 or 30 at the oldest. And Davis would be around that same age too. So it would be you're not losing anything age-wise. You get a guy in Lavine who wants to be there, that can kind of be your go-to scorer, and you can kind of put the pieces necessary around it. I do imagine that you get some other pieces involved beyond just Lavine. I know Bulls fans might think otherwise, but you're talking about a guy who you can make an argument is top 5, top 10 in the league when he's playing at that level and staying healthy. Lavine at best is top 20, maybe top 25, somewhere around there. So it's not a fair comparison. But desperate times call for desperate measures, depending on the circumstances of the time in which it happens. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility you get a swap, but I think the Lakers would be looking for a lot more than just Zach Lavine for Anthony Davis trade. But I don't be shocked if they're starting to have some trade talks 2 years from now. But again, my thoughts and opinions, as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know yours down in the comment section below. What do you think about a potential Anthony Davis, Zach Lavine trade? Would you be all for that? Would you not? Again, don't think it's happening this year. I don't think it's even in discussion this year. It's just interesting the report came out when it did, because this sounds like it was an interview from like a month ago or at least a couple weeks ago. But nonetheless, it's a report that was put out there, and I thought it was an interesting conversation. So again, let me know your thoughts and opinions. What would you do? What would you want back for Anthony Davis other than Lavine? Would you do this trade at all? Say 2 years from now, if LeBron looks like he's on his way out, and it's like, what do we do? Do we keep and build around Anthony Davis, or do we trade him? How would you feel about it? Love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.